I seriously mean when I say this that you should spare a thought at some point during the day for the Green Tory MPs. People like Chris Skidmore, who, when we went over his piece after Rishi Sunak's announcement that he was going to scrap all these net zero policies and not going to even go in that direction, we went through Chris Skidmore's piece. And we're like, yeah, exactly. The huge opportunity in going forward with net zero will create a green economy, create hundreds of jobs, all kinds of new investment opportunities, and create growth. Something that, again, the Tories are meant to be all about. But for one reason or another, they've decided that net zero all needs to be abandoned. And this all comes back to Uxbridge. They have decided that ULEZ and voters turning on ULEZ in that particular election campaign means that every single voter in the United Kingdom has now completely turned against net zero green policies. When you look at voting intentions, that is not the case. Time and time again, they are just not the case for these people. And yet, that is where we are. And I seriously do mean this. Spare a thought for these Green Tories, because I'll tell you what, we may disagree with them on about 90%, 80% of what they say, but I'll tell you this: when it comes to Green Tories who can see the opportunities of what net zero would bring to the UK, they're on the same page as you and I. They're on the exact same page as you and I. And spare a thought for them, because they are being pushed out of the party when they have repeatedly said, if we do not go in this direction, we will face electoral wipeout. And they are right. They are right to warn about that. And yet, this week in the Tory conference, we have seen them branded as deranged zealots. And they are completely alarmed at the direction that their party has taken on this. So, spare a thought for them. As little as I know, as hard as that might be, for sparing a thought for a Conservative MP, but we're not sparing a thought for all Conservative MPs, just the green ones, the people who are pro net zero, the people who really understood the opportunities that net zero would actually bring to the country if they actually were to go in that direction. They have been utterly and completely defeated. And remember, we went over that piece in Conservative Home from that Australian Conservative, from the Australian general election, where the Conservatives got absolutely wiped out because they did not do anything into net zero. They did not go into environmental policy. They completely denied climate change. And they got absolutely trounced for it. The warning was sent to them by him in Conservative Home. Seems to have gone completely ignored and wrong in favor of, oh my god, Uxbridge, this could keep us in, guys. This could make us, lose the election, but hey, I might keep my seat, so I'm fine. This is where we are. It's such a sad opportunity, such a wasted opportunity that they could have actually done this. But we should have seen it coming. To be honest, they weren't filling any of the levelling up promises. They have been completely unambitious. They've lost all ambition. From cancelling HS2 to everything else, to net zero, they have completely abandoned all ambitions and have signalled, if there are problems or anything like that, we're not even going to try and solve them. We're just going to drop it. It is not a good look. It is really not a good look for this. And like I say, a lot of Green Tory MPs are depressed about this, and quite rightly so, on this topic and subject. But before we go into seeing what they've had to say, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, there is the Patreon page. There is the one-off donation called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There is the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. So let's see what they've had to say, because it says it here. Depressed and branded zealots. Tory conference attacks on net zero are alarming Green-leaning MPs. At the Tory party conference this year, green politics is under attack. From the Energy Secretary Claire Cuthero attacking the so-called net zero zealots, to Sunak's watering down on environmental policies, and the resurgence of the likes of David Frost, Nigel Farage, and Jacob Rees-Mogg, it is now in vogue. Is not now in vogue to be green. This is something we should watch out for, because, well, Nigel Farage, as Rishi Sunak said, well, if he wants to be conservative again, we'd welcome him. Even people like Tom Tugendhat have said, yeah, if he wants to come campaign for Rishi, I'd welcome him. I wouldn't. Even if I was like the most diehard in the world conservative, I'd be still keeping Nigel Farage at not just at arm's length. I'd be making sure that there's at least a barge pole, and someone else is holding the barge pole, and then I've got another barge pole myself, just to keep them at a safe distance. That's how far I would keep away from Nigel Farage. But this is the direction that the Tory party has gone in. And in a way, Nigel Farage has won his fight for this, because obviously the two things Nigel Farage was fighting for, and he was open about this, to leave the EU and to push the Tory party into being more right-wing. So, in previous years, Tory MPs had lined up to proclaim their green credentials. It was seen as a vote winner, a way to show that they were caring. Now, not so much. This means that many eco-friendly MPs, there are a few, have simply stayed at home. And those who are here seeming and feeling depressed. After Cuthero attacked those who viewed net zero as a religion, she turned up to a Conservative Environmental Network event to remind them that she is a member. The reception was muted, and those present were jokingly referred to themselves as net zero zealots. The former COP26 president, Alok Sharma, came to Manchester to make the case for net zero to a group of businesses and Labour's Andy Burnham at a Green Summit that had been conspicuously absent so far from the conference hall. But it's just as well. He had been critical of the recent moves to water down the environmental protections. So, Alok Sharma, the guy who was the COP26 president, didn't even go to the Conservative conference. He was in the same city that he was doing a business presentation to businesses and Labour's Andy Burnham. Says everything you need to know about current direction of them. Sam Hall, the leader of the CEM, who's also arguably done more than most anyone to keep the Tories united on net zeros, putting on a brave face and telling The Guardian that much of the actual policies haven't changed, just the rhetoric around net zero. But even he described the rhetoric as unhelpful. The Hall also added, we need a positive case for net zero to combat Labour's environmental narrative at the election. So far, Cuthero has stuck to implying that the Labour Party wants to implement a meat tax. And this is one of the biggest lies that we've seen. She's obsessed with this idea that Labour wants to implement a meat tax. And she's been called out for it on TV. Beth Rigby, I think it was, said, whoa, I'm going to have to stop you there because that is a complete lie. Labour have come out and said, what are you doing? We've never proposed a meat tax. What kind of fantasy world are you living in? But continues, former Boris Johnson advisor, Sam Richards, who now runs Britain Remade, campaigning for more renewable energy, has pointed out that the polling has showed that Tories just getting 1% of the youth vote, suggesting that a change in this policy and rhetoric may be very short-lived if the party wants to court younger voters for whom climate change is a top priority. Massively so. The ever-industrious former net zero star, again, Chris Skidmore, told The Guardian, saying he's doing as much as possible to try and keep net zero alive. He warned a fringe event. It has caused concern. Is the UK willing to demonstrate leadership rather than roll back on net zero? It is undeniable that investors who are making the decisions right at this moment in boardrooms around the country where to place their investments, and they are all looking at that long-term certainty. And they are not guaranteeing that long-term certainty. They have just cancelled HS2, one of the biggest infrastructure building projects in the UK, gone. You look at Gareth Dennis, the hardest part of building HS2 is actually the London to Birmingham. After that, you're home free. The hardest part is already being built, because once you get to Birmingham, it becomes much more easier. And I've said this now, Gareth Dennis, you've probably seen him on TV very recently, talking about this with obviously the cancellation. I'm going to see if I can try and get him on again, because we probably need to have another chat to see what he thinks. Although I think you already know what he thinks if you saw our last conversation about that. Skidmore also addressed Sunak's claims that net zero is costing ordinary people, saying that net zero is not a cost. It is actually delaying any measures that will only cost households more in additional gas bills, because this has been the cost of gas crisis. Going further and faster on net zero will result in significant savings being made. And that's where we can deliver to continue to lead on this global net zero race. Something else that I've pointed out. This is a race. Chris Skidmore gets it. By stopping in the middle of this race, Europe and America are running ahead while the UK falls further and further behind. That is not a good position to be in, because now we have to play catch up. Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, who also enshrined the net zero target in law, has hoped that the Green policy, rather than disastrous Brexit votes, would be her legacy. But even she was lukewarm at the CEN drinks reception when she has said, now net zero isn't about a bossy state telling people what to do. We shouldn't be out there wagging our fingers saying you must never fly again, which no one is saying. You can never drive a car again. No one is saying that. What we're saying is, hey, part of the net zero transition would be building more transport infrastructure so that people don't have to drive their car. You know, what a shock having good, reliable public transport. What a revelation that would be. You can never eat meat again. No one is saying that. No one is saying that. We do that. We won't take people with us. And that, as a prime minister, what the prime minister has said. We must take people with us. Then explain to them the benefits of net zero, why we are doing this, how much it is going to improve the UK, create a greener economy, create more jobs, investment. So much you can say to take people with you on this. And yet, they are doing nothing. But May did say that net zero targets must still be met, and that climate change is the greatest threat to civilization as we know it. Well, at least she said that. Smiling thinly, she added, remember, we are the only party with conserve in our name. Well, you aren't doing much to do that at the moment, or should we say, even inspiring any confidence to do that at the moment. Though much of the Conservative Green legacy has been dismantled, that at least remains true. And we need to go into net zero. This is I've said it before, this is a big massive opportunity for Labour. Massive opportunity for Labour. That is the direction that they need to go in. That is what they need to do. That's what they need to do, and drive in that direction. I've said it before. Rachel Reeves will be the greenest chancellor we've ever had in the UK. I still have a lot of hope in that. Ed Miliband, really pro green when it comes to a lot of stuff. They get it. They get it. So I am very, very hopeful that we will get that. I'm very, very hopeful. But before we can get to that, admittedly, we're going to win an election, and then, well, Keir Starmer's got a lot of messes to sort out. I am not underplaying the amount of messes, or at least the cleanup operation he will have to do to just figure out what is going on in the country. And yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, it's really depressing to see this announced. And like I say, the only hope is we get Labour in, we get them to sort of fulfill on this, and they have said that's what they need to do and sort of fill on. I'll tell you now, if I were Keir Starmer, I'd be going out instantly saying, hell yes, we're going to do HS2. Not only HS2, once it gets to Manchester, it's going to go up to Liverpool. Once it's gone up to Liverpool, then it will go up to Scotland somewhere. I can't remember if it was going to go up to Glasgow or Edinburgh. I think it's going to go up to one of them. But yeah, doing that would be massive, massive improvement for the UK. And yet, this is the opportunity Labour has to show they have ambition beyond what the current Conservative government has not. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I can say, generally and seriously, spare a thought for those green-leaning Conservative MPs. Like I say, we may not agree on everything, but when it comes to net zero and the possibilities and the economic benefits and all the stuff that, you know, really achieving that net zero ambition can be, we do agree on that. So at least spare a thought for them on that during what has been an incredibly weird conference so far. And oh boy, so much other stuff we haven't covered. But yeah, it's been an interesting one. So stay tuned, because we probably got Rishi Sunak's, or at least my response to Rishi Sunak's fantastic leadership speech coming up. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.